the
Healthcare
done
some of the people, or
And I'm going to ask Susan to do roll call.
Okay. Ms. Friedman,
I am here.
Mr. Arnold,
Here.
Ms. Banks, Ms. Bell,
Here.
Mr. Brown, Ms. Carter, Mr. Janai, Reverend Gordon,
Here.
Ms. Harding,
Here.
Ms. Mendoza-Locke,
Here.
Mr. Knowles, Mr. O'Connor, Ms. Rodriguez,
Here.
Dr. Russell,
Here.
Mr. Stengel,
Here.
Major White.
Here.
Thank you very much, Susan. Next, we'd like to recognize our visitors, and we'll start with you, Richard.
Richard Arnold.
Mary Beth Alberti from Arrowhead Behavioral Health.
Alexandria Thomas Holland with Neighborhood Equalities and Crisis Residential Association.
Paul Lewis, Recovery Council, and St. Paul Community Center Board of Trustees.
Hi, everyone. Carol Conlon, Executive Director over at the Lucas County Guardianship Services Board. And I wanted to introduce our brand-new employee who just started this week.
Hi, Margaret Talb DeSalle, and I am working as the intake referral specialist at the Lucas County Guardianship Services Board.
Dave Kelleher, board staff.
And I'm Amy Cobold, Municipal Health.
Thank you, and welcome to everybody. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to read off the items on our consent agenda. If there's anything that you'd like to see pulled out, please let me know. Our meeting minutes from September 20th, Planning and Oversight Committee report, Treasurer's report, SORT 2.0 NCE allocation, Lucas County calendar year budget for Mhrsb, fiscal year 2024 provider agreement and miscellaneous contracts review allocation, purchase of service for 2022 increased allocation request, Family and Child Abuse Prevention Center, strategic planning consultant allocation, Danny's Place architectural and engineering consultant allocation, task Warren Commons allocation.
Please remove that.
Okay. Thank you. St. Paul's capital allocation. Community mini grant allocations, fiscal year 2023, first cycle.
I have a question about that, so I don't know if it needs to be pulled out. but-
Yeah, it needs to be pulled out then.
Yes. Okay, so we're removing the task one commons allocation, the community mini grant allocations, and of course, Ohio Moss Crisis Counseling Assistance and Training Program allocations will be pulled as well.
I'll take task and the
Okay.
mini grant.
All right, go ahead, Scott.
All right, let me get organized here.
Looks like page 19.
Yeah. Okay, I think I know it was pulled off. I should have pulled it off to begin with. Sorry, I wasn't thinking about it, but I will draw your attention to page 19, middle bottom of the page. As we discussed at the Planning and Oversight Committee meeting, there was a motion to approve the task Warren Commons.
Scott, real quick, don't we have to approve the slate, the consent agenda?
Thank you.
Yes. I was just waiting for him to take a breath, so thank you, Katina. He jumped right
I'm very eager to get this meeting.
That's right. I was
Just let me go on.
Well, I was waiting. I'm like, okay, he's gonna breathe in a minute here, and I can jump in. Okay.
I was focused.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a second? Roll call.
Susie?
Vote again.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
roll
have.
call.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Ms. Banks, Ms. Bell,
Yes.
Reverend Gordon,
Yes.
Ms. Harding,
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza-Locke,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Dr. Russell,
Yes.
Mr. Stengel,
Yes.
Major White.
Yes.
Thank you, Susan. Scott, now.
Now we're back. to the-
Come on now,
Nope,
Scott.
ain't doing it now. I am here to entertain you, evidently. Okay, hey, I'm gonna start from where I left off. Just come on over to page 19. We were, at our last, at Planning and Oversight Committee meeting, remember that you designated $220,000 back in April for the Task Warren Commons project. They have since, I believe, closed on the property, or will very shortly. No, they did. No, not yet.
Waiting for an easement from Toledo Edison.
All right, so they're waiting for the easement, but they had requested, they're ready to put shovels in the ground, they requested their money, and this is taking it from the restricted allocation to designating it to them so that we can send them the money. So there's a motion on the bottom of page 19 for that.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. And Susan, roll call.
Mr. Arnold,
Abstain?
Ms. Bell,
Yes.
Reverend Gordon,
Abstain.
Ms. Harding,
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza Locke,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Dr. Russell,
Yes.
Mr. Stengel,
Yes.
Major White.
Yes.
Okay, next, draw your attention to J on page 1920.
Yep, I will go ahead and take that as well. This is our community mini grant allocation process. It's fiscal year '23 first cycle. As you recall, we usually do 2 cycles a year. We do one starting in July and then one starting in January. We try to allocate near $50,000 each time. The allocation is in the annual purchasing plan, and we bring these back to you for your information and to authorize the expense, given it's over $25,000. We did a open request for proposals. I'm not recalling the exact amount, but I believe that there were 19 proposals. Yes, 19 proposals responded to. There was a scoring committee that selected 10 of those proposals. Several were renewals, or not renewals. Several had received several had received funding in the past, but there were, I think, 4 that were new this time. And I will be happy to answer any questions that I am able to.
So, my question is, so at the very last sentence before the motion, any unused funds must be returned to the board. I presume that means that there is an expectation that the organizations are somehow tracking the funds that they're using and how they're using them, like receipts?
Yes, absolutely. So they give us, it's a very simple application process. It's a couple of pages long. We don't require much of a budget, just tell us how you're gonna use the money, and then tell us how you spend it, and then tell us what was accomplished in a one-page application. So yeah, they do track everything that's expensed.
Okay. By the way, I think this is a great idea, and I love the fact that, we're doing things that are like adjacent to mental health too. I think that's really important. So, not a criticism of the program, I think it's a great program. Do we see, like, if there's an expectation of getting something back from them in terms of like, how they spent the money? Are we also giving them any, like, for organizations that have never done this before, any, like an example of how to do that? And are we following up with whether or not the programs are actually producing results that they had expected?
So the idea behind the projects were to keep things simple and to build upon what they were already doing. So it wasn't for us to come in and say, hey, start this new thing.
Sure.
It's our way of contributing to smaller grassroots organizations, budgets that are less than $750,000. Most are nonprofits, but you don't need to be a nonprofit. And your, as you described, providing services adjacent to our mission. Complementary, but not prevention, treatment, or support services. And you cannot be a licensed certified entity in order to qualify for this. So things are loose by design. They provide us a budget, and then they tell us how they spent the money. Now, if they deviate from that budget, our rules usually say you can do 10% deviation from the submitted budget without seeking approval. We have never had an issue of somebody not spending their money according to their budget. We've had some underspending due to late starts, and we usually get all that money back. So there's a reconciliation process at the end.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, any other questions? Do we have a motion?
So approved.
Second.
Thank you. And roll call.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Ms. Carter?
Yes.
Reverend Gordon?
Yes.
Ms. Harding?
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza-Locke?
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Dr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Stengel?
Yes.
Major White?
Yes.
Thank you again, Susan. And next, we're going to Amy. You're going to talk to us about Ohio West Classic Counseling.
Yep, hi everyone. Page 27 in the packet, the Ohio Mass Crisis Counseling Assistance and Training Program allocation. Lucas County is being awarded $283,751.66 and FEMA dollars for targeted outreach and referral services for individuals with mental health and substance use disorders. The funds will be used for outreach and community education, which, as a requirement of the funds, must be done by paraprofessionals such as peer supporters, who also must complete a mental health first aid course. So board staff are recommending that $200,000 of the allocation go to the Thomas Warner Center to implement the project, and then $30,000 of those dollars will go to the Train the Trainer event for mental health first aid, which is done through the National Council. Board staff will coordinate training for the peer supporter certification, and so those remaining funds of $53,751 will be utilized by the board for outreach, education, and marketing related to the project. So there is a motion on page 28, and I'm happy to answer your question.
Two motions.
Two motions.
Take them separately, please.
Okay.
Move approval of this motion?
Then there are no questions, comments, concerns? Okay, great.
Second.
Thank you.
I'll move approval on the second motion.
We need to
have
vote
to-
on the first
Oh,
one
sorry.
first.
Yeah, roll call. She was just getting started, so.
Mr. Arnold?
Abstain?
Ms. Bell?
Yes.
Ms. Carter?
Yes.
Reverend Gordon?
Yes.
Ms. Harding?
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza-Locke?
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Dr. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Stengel?
Yes.
Major White?
Yes.
Thank you, Susan. And the second part of this,
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Motion.
Second?
Oh, I'm sorry.
oh, yeah, I didn't catch that. Thank you, sorry. Okay, going to the second one, we have a motion,
Motion, second.
a motion and a second. Who, first one
A
came from
motion.
Tricia, from Major White, and the second came from Jim Stengel. And then we'll be ready for roll call.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Ms. Bell,
Yes.
Ms. Carter,
Yes.
Reverend Gordon,
Yes.
Ms. Harding,
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza Locke,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Dr. Russell,
Yes.
Mr. Stengel,
Yes.
Major White.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And now, Scott, we're ready for our director's report.
Well, okay, thank you, everybody. Just wanted to make some announcements here. Just for your November planning, we will have a Planning and Oversight Committee meeting on November 1st, the first Tuesday of the month. We will not have an Executive and Nominating Committee on November 8th. We usually do not meet on Election Day. So we will not be meeting on that day. That is Election Day, right? We will have the board meeting then on November 15th. Just a note to the Executive and Nominating Committee that in December, we will need to meet to begin the process of discussing my evaluation, as well as start the planning for identification of new officers and committee chairs to be voted on prior to July 1, 2023. So we start that process. Any questions about that? Okay. The other thing that I have for you today is a bit of an update on the State Opioid and Stimulant Response 3.0 grant. You've heard a lot about that funding source over the last several weeks. And we want to have just kind of update you on the latest so that when we come back in November, you're aware of where we're heading. So we have been notified by the state that we will have $924,000 less this year to spend than we did last year. They are not calling it a cut because they allowed us to carry that money over from the previous year to this year. So they're just giving us the amount that they allocated this year minus the carryover amount that we were allowed. I won't argue semantics with them, I promise, but the end result, though, is we do have less funds. We have 22% less dollars. So I want to draw your attention to when we first started the SOAR funding. There was a big push to get a lot of applications into the hopper. We were told we had access to about $3 million. And we did basically an open RFP process. And we scored the responses and we rank ordered them and we applied the dollar amount to the available, when we hit $3.3 million on the available amount of projects, we submitted all of those. And all of those were basically funded. Some of those projects are closer to directly reducing unintentional overdose deaths than others. So some of those project services are closer to directly impacting overdose deaths than others. It seems to me that our priority and the funding priority for this, while vast and broad, should be intentionally to fund organizations that have a direct impact on reducing overdose deaths in our community. And that's what we as staff have been focusing on to make recommendations to you for reductions in the next meeting. We've been focusing on the idea that by the end of September 2024, we'd like to see a 5% reduction in unintentional overdose deaths. So that's our guiding star. prioritization then of the existing projects are applied against that matrix. Also, though, there are other things. So those things that are directly reducing unintentional deaths. Narcan distribution to high-risk populations is a good example of that. Can't argue that, right, directly. But there's also supportive items that arguably you can make the connection to. Stable housing, access to withdrawal management, residential treatment. There are connections. So you need other things to consider. The things that we are hoping to consider are what projects are directly connected to the board's strategic priorities, things that you've stated are important to us. How well do they align with the board's priority outcome framework? You just had a report, I think it was a month ago, on the projects that align and how they're doing. How the projects that are currently offered met their previous performance objectives regarding spending and evaluation. So some programs spent their money real well, but did really poorly in actually meeting the requirements of evaluation that are set by the state. And then what projects have the opportunity to seek alternative funding? For instance, is this service Medicaid eligible? We are also interested in investing in recovery housing in a more standardized fashion. If you recall the way we previously did it, they submitted an application. If it was ranked high enough, we just submitted it. Without much thought on how do our investments in one recovery house, is it equitable compared to the other when they're providing like services. Previous to SOAR, we were investing a standard amount, $12 and I think it was 50 cents per night head on a pillow. So if you had somebody sleeping in a bed, we gave you $12.50. While we're not quite, we don't think we want to go back to that standard, we do need a metric. And we think standardization based on what is the fair market rental value that HUD puts for like properties is as good as measure as any to apply to this. So we're working out the kinks of that. But I'm telling you this so that you understand where we're heading with our strategy, because most of us in the room have never been through cutting programs before. Right? There are a few of us that have been through this. So we want you to understand where we're heading when we make the recommendations. There will likely be, first of all programs will take a reduction. You can't cut it $924,000 out of $4.2 million and not have a reduction. But what we're proposing also sets us up to carry over into the next federal fiscal year, when we will take an additional 30% reduction. So what we do now will set the process for the next 2 years. And that makes the most sense to us. And of course, we'll make some adjustments, in year 2, depending upon performance and what other metrics come up. We will hope that the state has significant underspending and they'll just give us the remainder money back and all life will be good. But we knew this was coming. We knew that this money was in addition to what we were already doing. The organizations that ran programs with SOAR funding knew that this money was, for lack of a better term, soft. It was actually in their contract where they said they should not expect funding beyond this fiscal year. And unfortunately, that has actually played itself out as true. And so the thought process that is going on, and we're not at a final recommendation yet, that's why we were going to have a walk-on to this meeting and give you that recommendation, but we're not there yet. So we're looking at each of the programs and then applying these measures to them. And from there, some programs that are higher on the priority and more aligned with what I've identified will take a lesser cut than those on the bottom of the list, and some may actually be recommended for elimination, because the higher priority list is directly in line with our desire to reduce unintentional overdose death directly. I will stop there and ask for any comments, any suggestions, any other thoughts. Now's a good time to think about that. Yes, sir.
I understand the priority we're setting, but I don't understand how that's played out into the field. Was there a new round based on a new RFP with that stated as the,
No.
or this just all carryover
Right.
from previous programs?
Yeah, this is all, we're only talking about currently funded programs. And given that we're taking such a substantial hit this year and next year, it didn't make sense to us to open it up for a new round of services. If there was new money coming in, certainly then it made sense to us. But by and large, we're satisfied with what we have, and we don't want to dismantle what we have. But given the cut, we do have to have some kind of metrics that allow us to make as an objective decision as we can.
And we know, based on our experience with each of these agencies, how they measure up to the new objective.
Yes. Yeah.
I want to clarify the funding. So the cut is 924,000. What is that off of? Because I've heard two
So-
different figures, and I just want to make sure that when we say that we're going to be cutting this 924, we're cutting it from what total amount?
Okay. So, our original federally fiscal year 22 allocation was 3.3 million and some change. After that original allocation, they came back to us, Ohio Moss came back to us and said, hey, we have these extra funds, are you interested in them?
Right.
And that was at the time where the minority treatment grant went from about $1 million a year to $326,000 a year, because Ohio Moss decided they weren't going to fund that again. They pushed it down into the community. So we said, absolutely, let's make the minority treatment grant whole, plus. So we were able to gather another $924,000. So that's a total of $4.2 million.
Got it.
Right? So the state said, going into this year, we're going to give you your same allocation, 3.3 million, but we're not going to give you the carryover. Now, if you recall the last time I had this conversation with you, we thought we were going to take a 30% cut off the 3.3 million.
Correct.
And the state has rethought that, to their credit, and said, no, we're going to give you the 3.3 million because we didn't notify you in a timely fashion that you were actually going to take a 30% cut. But next year, you're taking that 30% cut. So next year's cut of 30% will actually be off the 3.3 million. This year, they're not framing it as a reduction because they are saying essentially that this was money that you left on the table last time, so it isn't essentially a cut to you. Needless to say, that doesn't sound right to agencies and organizations that are actually getting reduced allocations because of it. We've had that conversation with the state. They had indicated that it was our choice to create a new program, which essentially we did kind of by boosting up and returning the minority treatment grant, which was a high priority for us to begin with, to its original state allocated amount. But we have the cards that we have to deal with. We will continue to advocate. You know, I think from our standpoint, and I'm sure from the provider's standpoint, it's difficult to understand why they would reduce us given the fact that there is so much SOAR underspending going on and so much new money in SOAR state opioid stimulant response, that, you know, they could keep us whole if they chose to. Now, that stated, my understanding is that the money that isn't coming to us is going to be distributed to the Ohio Moss bureaus, prevention, treatment, housing, support, those things, for distribution to the agencies directly, according to their priorities. So we will be pointing those organizations to Ohio Moss for direct funding and supporting their applications for direct funding, should that be the case. But at this point in time, I'm pretty sure we're locked in at a 3.3 million this year and then another 30% reduction next year. So that's the theory we're trying to get to this year, so that we already have this settled for next year, minus any metrics supplied for performance or spending.
I think the direction that you're moving to look at all the programs sounds excellent, because, you know, it's, the easy way is give everybody a percentage off, but you're not doing that. You're doing the work. You're doing the hard work to see what's working, so I applaud you for that.
I concur.
And if anybody has any current thoughts or any other thoughts and you want to shoot me a note, we're working on this actively now. So, and we're not taking it lightly, because we understand that we've been living in a time of fiscal bliss, I guess, for a while. And in this small little instance, small being, almost $1 million, I guess it's all relative, right? That is simply not the case this time. So. Okay? All right, so I'm going to move on with some good news. The Crisis Residential Association held its Crisis Residential Conference in Austin, Texas last week. Ms. Priest and another staff member, Mr. Stone, was lucky enough to attend that conference. But I bring that up because at the conference there were 3 awards that were presented. I want to recognize Ms. Courtney Burrow from the Zeff Center for being nominated for the Lauren R. Mosier Award for Service Excellence. Ms. Burrow and her team is leading the implementation of Zeff Center's crisis services. While Ms. Burrow was not selected for the award, I just think we should recognize her contributions and thank her and her team. Additionally, our board was nominated for the Crisis Partner Award. We were nominated by Alex Thomas, who is with us here today. She is, I believe, a vice president for neighborhood properties, or maybe yet, did I just give you a promotion?
One of the executive officers.
Executive
No.
officer?
No,
Okay.
for neighborhood properties, no.
Okay.
No.
I didn't give you a demotion for
That's
neighborhood
just
properties, right?
saying.
Okay. She's also a trustee of the Crisis Residential Association, and we were fortunate enough to receive the award. And Ms. Thomas is here today to present her nomination in recognition of the honor. So, Alex?
Thank you, everybody. So this award was given at.
1 second.
We're going to have a speaker.
Sorry, I'm in the way. The award was given at an awards ceremony dinner that we traditionally do every year. The Crisis Residential Association is an board, an association for crisis services organizations across the United States. So I represent Ohio as the board member based in Ohio, and we have board members in California and Colorado and New York, all over the country, and we get together each year for a conference that we really enjoy, and there are awards that are given each year for successful crisis services work and excellence in crisis services. And so the Mental Health and Recovery Services Board were nominated this year, and they were given the award at the awards dinner. I do want to read their nomination, but I apologize, it's on my phone. My printer is not working today, so I'm going to read it to you all because I just feel like it's important to acknowledge why this award, why the nomination came, and then why you received the award. The Mental Health and Recovery Services Board of Lucas County has remained committed to cultivating high-quality crisis services for Lucas County and its residents. Their dedication to asking the tough questions, finding solutions like advocating for lived experience programs, and challenging each organization to do their very best work for the sake of its residents has made Lucas County stand out as a mental health system willing to represent everyone and their unique recovery needs. So it was an honor to stand there with Amy in front of all those people and present the award, and congratulations to you all on the hard work that you do, board staff and board trustee members on behalf of Lucas County.
You show them
And
the award?
yes, I will show. And then this is the award. Congratulations to you all. Well done.
Well, thank you, Alice, for recognizing us and nominating us. What an honor, and we're humbled that, you know, across the country that we would be selected for such a prestigious award. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Alex. Oh, you can just leave it there. I think we're gonna want some pictures, aren't we?
Yeah, I'll stick around.
All right, thank you.
All right.
That concludes my report.
All right. Wow, that's a great conclusion, wouldn't you say? Next, we're going to go into open session. All right, Richard, we're ready for our...
Okay, not a lot going on over at Government Center. Last Thursday, the Plan Commission did give their approval to the medical marijuana dispensary that's going to be at 3534 Dorr Street. That is the old Jed's. It's right next door to the University of Toledo. They had originally submitted a couple of months ago. Plan Commission staff recommended against it, but they resubmitted and it was approved. The only hitch, that they'll put one more stipulation on them: if the owner for any reason loses his license, either he doesn't renew it or it's taken away, then the special use permit is also rescinded. But it will now go to City Council, I believe, on the November the 16th. I believe that is Councilman Hobbs' district. I have no idea. I was the only person in the audience when it was approved. There were no phone calls of any kind to the Plan Commission, so apparently the neighbors are okay with it. We'll see what that does. It's going to have a drive-through window. It's going to be just like going to Burger King. But we'll see what happens with that. Just came from City Council meeting. They will spend $50,000 for the consultant fees to find a new police chief. It's going to be the Ralph Anderson organization, and I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. They've got a lot of experience helping cities find a new police chief, because across the country there's a lot of them that have been leaving, and they've been working with them. If you don't recall, Chief Kroll used to be on this board, and I thought he did an excellent job. There will probably be one more public safety committee of the City Council to get input from the public. These meetings have not gone well in the past. Sometimes they have to drag people out in handcuffs, but they want to have one more meeting. And we're coming up on the holiday season, so I have no idea when it will take place. But they will get input from the community. What should we be looking for in our new police chief? Hopefully, this person will be considered maybe for this board. So this morning at County Commissioners, Commissioner Gary Myers made a joke. They will be contracting with Orkin to do pest control on this building and other Lucas County facilities. And he felt the need to clarify that they will only be removing pests of a non-human nature. I'm not sure how to interpret that. But they will hopefully make sure that there are no critters roaming this building. So and I don't know how much they're going to spend. They didn't put a dollar amount on it, but Orkin will be in charge of pest control for this building and other Lucas County facilities. And I want to make an editorial comment. It concerns the people that this board serves. They are similar to the comments I made at the Levy Review Committee. City Council will next week give their approval to the Lucas County Library, their levy that's going to be on the November ballot. For anyone who does not recall their last levy, it was up in 2017. They went a year early in 16 because they wanted to be on the ballot during a presidential election year. That was Clinton-Trump. They did ask for new money. They had ads like this one. If you can't see it, it is a picture of a library with a very large padlock on the door. Nothing subtle about it. It is telling the taxpayers, you better do what we want or we will start closing libraries. It did pass, and they did close the downtown library. They closed it for 13 months. It was all done in secret. There was a lot of media attention to this. There were editorials in the Blade. Never discussed in public meetings. And the closure for more than a year did have a huge impact on the homeless population and the mental health population and the substance abuse population who frequent the library on a daily basis. It bears mentioning that this board stepped up. I believe this board funded portable toilets. The Cherry Street Mission did a great job. But as far as the Lucas County taxpayers were concerned, they were left completely out of the loop. They're very generous people, and they should never be left out of the loop when it comes to how their tax dollars are spent. I am not opposed to this levy, but this is a good time as any to remind people that we should never leave the taxpayers completely out of the loop when it comes to how their tax dollars are spent. That's my editorial comment. Thank you.
Do we have any other? None for open session?
I have just a brief editorial with Mr. Arnold's last comments. Prior to the library's closing, they convened a group of folks, both county and city elected officials and providers, to develop a strategy for what happens for displaced folks when the library closes. The library stepped up and actually funded an alternative site at Cherry Street Mission. The board provided some additional funding. Crisis services were available. There were a lot of things behind the scenes that did occur, so that people were continuously served, understanding that was a big void. As far as the last comment of engaging the public or anything like that, I'm not aware of anything that was or wasn't done related to that. But our role to help support people who no longer had access was something that we took very seriously, and actually showed and provided a model of what could be done when similar things occurred. And shortly thereafter, I believe, the Lorraine Hotel shut down.
Yep.
And so we pulled out that model and did another round of services, and the homelessness board stepped up and did some things as well, and they were involved in the first thing as well. So thank you for that reminder, Richard. It's people can do amazing things when they come together. So
Quickly, they did it quickly, too.
and did it very quickly, yeah. The other thing is just for the board trustees, there are a couple events going on this weekend. There's a Heart and Soul event at Halloween at Hensville, NOPH, and our Warner Center is involved in that fundraiser. There'll be a number of us there, but also there's the NAACP dinner. The board has sponsored a table. We have some tickets if anybody's interested. We have a ticket for you and a guest until tickets run out. So I don't know how many we have left, but if you're interested in attending with you and a guest, we can see what we have available. And
What night is the
Saturday.
the heart and soul?
Saturday.
Oh,
And
Saturday.
NAACP. And we will be at Trunk or Treat on Saturday in the afternoon. So we have a busy Saturday. And Robert, did I forget anything else?
10 Cities this weekend.
10 cities this weekend as well. That's right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it is
Saturday and Sunday.
yeah.
Not
So,
resources.
that's all I have.
Okay, so see Scott if you want tickets to either of the events. I'm attending the NAACP because I'm on that board, so.
Yep, and I'm going to.
You're gonna go to Heart and Soul.
Halloween. Heart and Soul.
So, as they say. So, anything else for open session? Any other comments? Yes.
And I have a plenty loud voice, so I really don't need the microphone. I just wanted to say super briefly, the only reason I said a little extra about Margaret Telp-DeSalle, who started because they knew she had to leave early. She rounds out our staff at the Guardianship
Okay.
Services Board. We were to have 8 hires by December 31st of 2022, and we hit that by October 11th. So we are at full staff and full capacity for guardianships moving forward. And she's going to be taking us a large part into our next step, from trainings to outreach. So we are launching, starting with Zeph Center, a very full-scale, as opposed to a not very full-scale outreach effort, so that everyone in town knows exactly who we are and what we're able to do for the citizens of Lucas County. So I just wanted to let you all know we've hit that last section of our infrastructure and we're complete. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the update, thank
Can I
you.
make a comment? I would like to encourage the Guardianship Services Board to consider putting together some form of outreach and/or education for parents of adults who have, who need assistance, who aren't taking their medication, who are, you know, out in the streets. That a lot of them end up losing their adult children to suicide. So letting them know, the parents know about the services. I know they don't go through the Guardianship Services Board, but just educating people on what resources and options they have to intercede in the lives of their adult children and prevent suicide.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have received, myself personally, a lot of phone calls from family members, and suicide prevention is very close to my heart, so absolutely. Nemo, we will be moving forward with continuing outreach on that front. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other ones? All right.
Everybody stick around for a photo?
Oh, yeah, stick around for a photo, but the meeting's adjourned.